Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Here is something that you probably didn't know. It is impossible, absolutely impossible, to lick your elbow. And you know what? Right now, right this very second, I'll bet you 75% of the people that just heard me say that are trying. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. On a Tuesday, April 22nd. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. Let's check with Gina, and good morning, my dear. Nice to have you back.
Well, good morning, sunshine, and how are you on this beautiful Tuesday?
What? Wow. Are you turning into a singer this morning? You sound like you're going to jump through the posies and sing a song.
Actually, I'm in a rather good mood today, so don't ruin it.
Well, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. How are we coming through? It sounds a little tinny over here. Okay, good, good. We missed you yesterday, but I want to say thanks to Scotty Cameron for filling in.
Absolutely, yes. I took a nice little day off, and actually I worked on a car.
Really?
I did.
Well, what a novel thing for you to do. I can't imagine.
I know. We reworked the transmission, and then we got my little brother's crate engine just about ready to drop in.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, speaking about dropping in, how about a pledger? Do we have somebody to drop in with that this morning?
Yes, we do. We've got Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Go ahead with the pledge, please, Dal. I appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, God bless you and your wife. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at Lunch Punch on Thursday.
We plan on being there.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. By the way, folks, before we do the weather this morning, I want to remind you that don't leave things in the back of your pickup bed, and just don't leave them thrown in there, whether it's saddles and tack or whether it's your tools or whether it's groceries. You know what? Protect that every item that you put in the back of your pickup bed, and protect them with a Save-On shell. That's right, Save-On shells, 1835 Overland and Burley with Anthony at 312-1525. They have got the best of the shells for your pickup. I'm going to tell you more about them right after we have Michael Rogers weather. Good morning, Michael. Good to have you on the air.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. 53 degrees in beautiful downtown Murtaugh. It's 38 degrees up here in beautiful downtown North Pole, Alaska. This is where you'll get your weather forecast all the way to the month of October. You got clouds and rain in the forecast for today, and we're going to kick in some wind, too, while we're at it. It's going to start much of the day and continue into much of this evening. You're going to see winds west 20 to 30 miles an hour, possibly gusting to about 45. Otherwise, the rain will be with us throughout much of the day, 56 for the high, 33 for the overnight low. Tonight, it'll continue and start to taper off about midnight, and then you'll have a nice sunny day for tomorrow with a high of about 62. That is it for the weather. Enjoy it. It is The only weather you got.
Thank you very much. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Always the best in weather, and brought to you by Save On Shells. They have got the ARE shells in many, many different models that'll fit your pick-em-up truck, and I'll tell you what, you can protect everything on the inside. And by the way, they have a fantastic selection of used shells. I'm telling you to stop in today and ask for Anthony. This young man really knows shells, and they've got the best of installation parts and service. If they don't have what you're looking for, they can find it, and they will find it. How do I know so much about Save On Shells? Because I bought one for my pick-em-up truck, and I am a very satisfied customer. You will be too. Save On Shells, 1835 Overland in Burley. Number to call, 312-1525. I got to get this public service announcement in real quick. Matching Fund Project, a special dinner and raffle, proceeds going to be donated to the Minidoka County Senior Center. Up to $2,500 will be matched by Modern Woodmen of America for the Meals on Wheels program. It's going to be this coming Sunday, April 27th, 12 to 2 p.m. at the Minidoka County Senior Center, $8 per person. Free will donation will be accepted, and they'll have raffle tickets and everything else. Going to be a lot of fun, a lot of prizes, and Jerry Voss is the activities coordinator for that big event. Don't forget that coming up this next Sunday. Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. My goodness, that's the place to go with your rumply-crumply clothes like I do, and they'll come back home looking brand spanking new. Many, many times I've gone down and got my clothes and put them in the truck and thought, well, I never bought that shirt. Well, I don't think those are mine. Well, they are. They just look brand new. Darrow's Cleaners. They take good care of your clothes and anything that needs cleaning. Take it in there. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Really, really nice people. Pardon me for coughing into the microphone this morning. Also, I would like to remind you about SafeLink Internet. They've been around for over 16 years, and they offer fast, reliable Internet, and they have a track record to prove it, too. And believe me, if you want to work with the best and the nicest people, let me tell you, that's them. SafeLink Internet. I am very happy with the service. All you have to do to get on their program is call 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. Idaho's number one choice, SafeLink Internet. You give them a call today. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear the news this morning? I got to get Gina on here. Gina, did you hear any of the news this morning that was going on early about 6:30, 7 o'clock?
Do tell.
All right, well, I want to just share this with you. Remember how, and it's been such a absolutely dramatic search for the Malaysian plane, flight number 370?
Okay.
And remember how in the last couple of days, it, as far as news, it has diminished in newsworthiness, and there hasn't been much coverage? Mm-hmm. Now some of the so-called search experts are saying, quote, maybe the plane did land someplace.
Gee, you think?
You know, I was really criticized, and I got a lot of emails. I got a lot of emails from people that thought I was, you know, one of those absolute off-the-wall right-wingers saying that the plane had landed someplace. I was the first one to come out and say that theory, by the way, and I'll stand behind it. I said that the plane maybe had landed someplace, and terrorists or groups like Al-Qaeda might have taken the prisoners or hostages of the plane, and Lord help them, I hope nothing worse. But, and I said they might repaint the plane and use it for a very massive attack on some land, whether it's the United States, Great Britain, whatever, and I was really scoffed at. And then other people came out and said the same thing. But this morning, with the lack of debris and the lack of finding anything, even some of the experts that are looking for the plane saying, excuse us, maybe the plane did land. And you know, this is a terrible thing to say, but I think you'll understand why I'm saying it. With the arrogance and the absolute acting like a jackass, Bill O'Reilly denouncing everybody else in the media for having any other kind of a theory other than the plane went down in the Indian Ocean, I just really hope he ends up with nothing but egg and yolk all over his face. She's gone. Okay. Calls are well.
Talking to Jerry real quick.
Okay. Well, I just was astounded that some of the so-called experts this morning are saying maybe the plane did land someplace.
I'm thinking maybe it did because, they haven't found any debris. There was one report of a gentleman who said that he used to be former CIA. Maybe I'm stepping into muddy waters here. But there was a gentleman who did have some activity on his phone who was on that flight. And he was trying to send pictures, but the pictures were black. He didn't know where he was at, and he was blindfolded. I'm going to have to do some research.
What we need to do is kind of look at all the facts. And they had made a report, and I'll say this real quick because I've got a commercial break. But remember, Gina, when they said the plane went to an altitude all of a sudden of 45,000 feet? Uh-huh. And they said that at that level, which is true, there would be a blackout point with a lack of oxygen, and it would eliminate anybody in the crew or the passengers to stay awake and cognizant of what's going on. But I'm not so sure, because even going to that level, would not the oxygen mask come down and people be able to put them on their heads and get fresh oxygen?
Normally, it would have, but see, the flight recorders and a lot of the other safety protocols that they had on that plane had been disabled.
True, but now let me ask you this: how do we know? We haven't found that black box.
This is all speculation.
It's all speculation. Mm-hmm. And the thing that bothers me is if, and I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not a Bill O'Reilly that's advocating that he's never wrong, but if that plane did land, all bets are off as to what's going to happen.
Yeah. And, honestly, they need to continue that search, not only for the families of the people that were on that plane, but come on, really. Where is that plane?
Amen.
It's kind of like finding where's Waldo.
Amen. I know where a great place to eat is, and boy, am I satisfied with their menu. The people and just the service is absolutely fantastic, and that's at Denny's Restaurant, and that's at 611 Overland in Burley. My goodness, they've got everything over there on their menu. I tried the other day, that Philly cheesesteak omelet. Oh, wow! That is now my new hit parade #1. Love it. Absolutely fantastic. And you're going to love anything. All the Grand Slams, everything, and seniors, special menu, and AARP discounts. Oh, my. Get in there, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And we're going to be over there on Thursday for our Zeb's Lunch Bunch for the month of April. Don't miss it, 611 Overland in Burley. And also, we're going to have gift cards and door prizes provided by Smith's Food King, Handsome Mortuary, and Denny's themselves. Going to be great at Denny's in Burley. We'll take phone calls. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick, I also want to remind you, there is a big happening going on over at Valleywide Home and Ranch, and it's going to be this coming Saturday. They're going to have a special lawn and garden clinic, and it's going to be free to the public. It's going to be this Saturday, April 26th. Bring your questions over there, and it's going to be hosted by Garden Wise. And this is at Valleywide Home and Ranch this coming Saturday from 2 to 4 at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. So believe me, everything you need for your gardening, all your fencing and your fertilizers, everything right there at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see those good folks today. All right. Mass graves of dead cattle have been found on the Bundy Ranch. Now, these are the stories that have been reported. And last night on the news, I saw some of the Bundy family, the daughter and one of the daughters, and Mrs. Bundy, and they were being interviewed about the dead cattle that were shot and killed and or buried by the BLM. This story just gets worse and worse and worse, and one of the sub-headlines of this story was that it's almost comical if it wasn't so serious. The BLM admitted that they killed at least 6 cattle because they were, quote-unquote, rowdy. Now, I'm chuckling. And I shouldn't be. It's a very serious situation. But I've been around cows and horses all my life, and they were rowdy. Yeah, they can get rowdy. They can get stupid. They can try to charge a horse. They can do anything at any time because sometimes their mind's not on the same level as ours, and they certainly can be cursed and discussed over many conversations about how rowdy they can get. But to pull out a gun and shoot them because they were rowdy, if we shot every cow that was rowdy, we wouldn't have any cattle in the West left.
Why would the BLM send out wannabe cowboys to deal with cows?
Now, there's a question I can't answer because I think it's absolutely ludicrous. If I don't know who they hired, I don't know how much they paid, I don't know what qualifications they had, I don't even know if these people knew how to throw a rope or to stay behind the cow instead of in front of the cow. I don't know what they knew, but to say that they were rowdy and pull out a gun and shoot them, that's mess.
That is the normal protocol of said animal. Sure that they can be a little rowdy, and it's your job to, kind of whip them in line just a little bit and say, get on, and go where you need to be going. And to shoot an animal that's pretty much, honestly, harmless, all they do is eat.
Gina, this whole thing with Harry Reid and his son Rory and the mess that this has caused in the media, and again, I am not advocating. I had somebody jump on me the other day. They didn't listen to the whole program. They thought they'd jump on me. You're advocating that nobody pay their fair way. I never said that. You've never heard me say that. I've said that Mr. Bundy, if he's behind on his grazing fees, he should pay up. There's a negative on each side in this story. But you just don't go in and destroy water tanks. You just don't go in and knock down fences and corrals. You just don't go in and kill livestock. And by the way, he's still missing quite a few head of his cows that they don't know where they are, but they estimate. Now, this is an estimation, and I am not saying this. This is the estimation that was given, that possibly 35 to 37 head were put and killed into a mass grave and covered up, but not very well, and they found them.
Yeah. Actually, if you get onto their Facebook page, you can actually see pictures of them pulling the dead cattle out of these holes, and it's very, very sick and saddening. And please tell me that Harry Reid is being investigated for this along with his son, and he will be taken out of office.
Well, look at the price of cattle today, and you've heard on our Merv May Livestock Report with the Burley Livestock every Thursday, prices of cattle are absolutely sky high right now.
Yeah, they are.
And for a cow-calf pair, you got to go float a bank loan just to buy one pair, and which is good for the ranchers, and I'm very happy that they're making some money off the cattle industry right now. But to go out and wantonly shoot, let's round it off, and let's just say that they shot 40 head of cattle, okay? And we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that's laying there in a grave, and wouldn't it have been smarter if they really had a legal hold on Bundy and what he owed to keep the cattle, sell them, and apply that to his debt?
Yeah. That would have been the smart way to do it, instead of going in all gun-slinging and gun-toting and pretending you are the law of the West. Well, sorry, Mr. Harry Reid, you're not, and you botched it.
Yeah, and there was something else that just kind of made me mad this morning, is when I read John Alexander's op-ed pages in the Times News. John never lets the facts get in his way of trying to support his opinion, and he said in here, I'm trying to find it right now, that, the militia swarmed, they were talking about Bundy, and pointed their weapons at the federal bureaucrats. Gina, before the militia showed up down at Bundy's, who had the guns and who was pointing at who?
And who had the tasers and the dogs and harassing whose family and innocent people? Yeah,
John sometimes has a tendency to jump off the rails, and he did in this case also. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, and believe me, they've got all your incandescent light bulbs, and they've got all your outside lighting, they've got your CFL bulbs, they've got all kinds of lighting. Go to the light, go to the light, go to Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they've also got all your cords and cord ends and fuses. They've got everything for you, all your electrical needs right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they always provide for you warm winters and cool summers. Now, there's so much about this story going on down there with the Bundys and the land and the desert tortoises and the environmentalists that I have no respect for. The environmentalists are basically liars and frauds and charlatans. If it's true, and again, we've heard reports that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the BLM moved certain desert tortoises, and some were even euthanized. And I have a report right here on my desk that talks about that euthanization of these desert tortoise. Gina, can you imagine? Now, just imagine this for a moment, that you and I were down there by Bunkerville, Nevada, and we're having a picnic, Deanne and I and you and James, and all of a sudden one of these desert tortoises shows up, and we move it, and or while picking it up it dies, and somebody with the federal government sees that, we would be behind bars for the rest of our lives.
Oh, probably so, even though they're just out there killing them.
And then they euthanize them and move them to another area, and which is totally inept and unresponsible to this situation. Irresponsible, I should say. And I know I've got a call. I got to get this in real quick. I'll be right with the caller. Stand by. Ed's Office Supply. Holy smokes, I can't believe this. Ed's Office Products Incorporated, and they're now, everything in the store is 50% off. Did you hear me? 50% off after 40 years. Ed's Office Products going to close their doors. I talked to Gloria yesterday. She needs a vacation. What a lovely lady. And they've still got some desks left. And by the way, too, make the best offer on shelving. They're going to get rid of all their shelving. And maybe you're in the market for it. We'll stop over to Ed's Office Products today, 1340 Overland in Burley. And these are really good folks. They've worked hard for years and years, and they're going out of business. Ed's Office Products. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Zeb, how you doing?
Good. Go ahead, please.
Good. Hey, I did some estimating just on the numbers you just threw out there that we rounded up to 40 head. At 40 pairs, that's $120,000.
$120,000 right now today. But along with that, caller, there is the reproductive factor on those cows of being providing a calf the next year and so on.
Yeah, anything they'd have kept for a replacement heifer, or if they'd have kept bulls to sell them, I didn't figure that in. I just went straight pairs.
Well, now, doesn't it?
$120,000. That would have went a long ways on his bill if that's what they were after was the money.
Absolutely. Now, let's just put this in perspective. That's on 40 head. And we know that the Bundys are running right around 900 to 1,100 cows, mama cows. And you do the math. I mean, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but now if the government had been smart and said, well, we can prove that you owe this, you haven't paid these fees, wouldn't it have been a lot simpler and a lot smarter to get a court action and then deplete the cost of what he owed via the livestock and handle it in a professional manner? But these idiots, and that's what they must have been, caller, going out and shooting these cows, what sense does that make?
Well, I still think in the state of Nevada, it's like the state of Idaho. If you catch somebody stealing your cows or killing your cows, it's still a hanging offense.
All right. And now let's go take this one step further, because I got a hard break, but I want to ask you this. The term that they used when they killed 6 cows is because they were, quote-unquote, rowdy. Now, I think I know who this is calling, and I think you've cowboyed all your life, and you've run across some, quote, rowdy cows. You don't pull a .38 out of your doggone holster and shoot them.
If I did that, I wouldn't own a cow.
Amen. Listen, I do appreciate your call, and thanks for the figure on the computer. We appreciate it. $120,000. Thanks much, and I appreciate it. God bless.
Okay, bye.
You know, see right there, the caller made the excellent point. Just with the 40 that supposedly are in round figures are lying there dead in a mass grave, $120,000 laying there at no remuneration value whatsoever. That's idiotic. Don't forget Travelube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn. Number to call, 438-8730. And the other day, Jim was telling us about air filters. They can clean them. And he was also telling us about all the fillers they've got over there for all the older equipment and everything at prices that are sometimes 90% off. You can't afford to pass this up. Get in there or give them a call. They've got all your oils, all your tools, everything at Travelube Supply. All your bolts. I mean, they've got all the metric and standard bolts. they got bolt bins, they've got it all for you. Travelube Supply, they deliver the goods, 438-8730. Oh my, I'm running late. Time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, of course. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Trains have recently been involved with a backlog due to freight from oil and coal, keeping fertilizer from farms. The U.S. Surface Transportation Board is directing the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway and Canadian Pacific Railway Company to outline their plans to get fertilizer to farmers who need it in time for planting. At a public hearing in Washington, D.C., the board heard from farmers and others that without timely delivery of adequate amount of fertilizer, they would not be able to start spring planting. Burlington Northern said it would cooperate with the board. It's rare for the board to step in and direct railroad service. The biggest crisis the board saw was that in the next 10 days, corn, soybean, and wheat plantings were going to start and fertilizer needs are immediate.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Well, I heard a whole bunch of clicking going on there, and I was glad that we didn't get cut off the air. Good heavens. Good morning, and thank you very much. Capital Press Ag Minute brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric on Overland in Burley. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244. And while I'm waiting for your call, don't forget Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie. They've got a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulating root growth, and microbial activity. And don't forget, too, the savings of the water. The irrigation water savings alone will pay for the cost of the product. And I'll tell you, Penetron treated crops, better crop yields, better quality all the way. Tell your fertilizer and crop advisor you want Penetron by Maisie. Do it today. Penetron by Maisie. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Did you just hear the Capital Press report there?
I was visiting on the phone with another party. I did not. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Well, they're talking about how they were transporting other things, and they needed to transport fertilizer so these farmers could put the fertilizer on the ground so they can plant their crops. Well, I do a lot of work out on the Dietrich Highway, and in Minidoka, and clear over to Shoshone. And the other day I was standing there, we're doing a job, and I happened to look up and I seen these gigantic white things on the railroad cars. And I thought, well, what the hell is that? And then I looked and I realized it was wind turbine blades. And so I looked up as far as I could see, and there was 28 of them on the railroad cars going to the west. And I counted them, and I said to myself, well, see, this continuation of this environmental thing that never works is not paying for itself at all, is continuing on somewhere else, and maybe not so much here at this point. But this environmental craziness is going on last night on the news.
Yes.
On Channel 11, on KMBT, CSI is going to have a sustainability. Sustainability is in Agenda 21, you know, and they're going to have a seminar, and it's going to be sometime this week or something. And you see, it's happening right under our noses, and these things are being, pushed by forces that are not friends of you or me.
I'll tell you something, Randy. Last Cow Pies and Coffee Cups, my last issue, I talked about this, and I made jest in the fact that I'm going to start looking for a cave because basically we're going to have to start living like Neanderthals once again, thanks to the idiocy and the incompetency of the environmental movement. Somebody called me earlier this morning and said, am I going to do a big diatribe this morning on Earth Day? No, I don't believe in Earth Day. I believe in God. I don't believe in worshiping Mother Earth. I don't believe in worshiping and and wishing and hoping for better environmental standards. I think we have the best anywhere in the world. I believe in use, not abuse, and I absolutely am appalled as to the knotheads that are falling in line that want to wear breech clouts and sit down on their knees and rub sticks together trying to make a little bit of a fire. I'm fed up with this. We could solve the energy problem in less than a year by opening up fields of endeavor for energy that God gave us underneath our feet, whether it's fracking for the natural gas, whether it's for the oil, whether it's for the coal, and we have all the standards to keep our environment clean. But I'm sick and tired of these environmentalists walking over you and I and our families, costing us our retirement just to make a living today. I'm fed up with them.
Very much so. You know, now this is about Clive and Bundy quick, and I'm going to quit. On KTVB Channel 7 in Boise, they cannot get this story right about Clive and Bundy. I got to the point where I called the news director and left a message with her just now saying that at least you ought to do is do a little research and get the story about what he owes on his grazing fees and the fact that there's cattle that were killed and you did not cover it.
Absolutely. Randy, I always appreciate you getting involved and looking into stories. Thank you so much for your call here this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. You know, celebrate Earth Day and everybody live like hermits. Why? You know what? I'm only going to be on this earth for a short period of time, and you are too. And I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm not going to go out and abuse anything. I'm not going to make the world a nasty or dirty place for my grandchildren, but I am going to enjoy it. And I'm sick and tired of being relegated to second and third and fourth class because we can't afford it. And I'm also sick and tired of taking all my savings for retirement, of which I would love to retire, and having it to use to fill up my truck with diesel or my car with gas or pay exorbitant prices just because of the environmentalists leading us down a primrose path to oblivion. It's stupid. I feel so much better. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've got all the equipment for you. All the equipment for you. I went by the Burley location the other day, and I looked at that great big display of Coyote tractors. They've got them all out there. Oh, my. And they've got all the Doosan loaders and excavators. They've got everything over there. So, and by the way, you need to mow a lawn. They've got all those walker mowers. Get the job done in a big hurry. All you have to do is stop in and talk to these folks, whether you're buying or renting at Berry Equipment and Rental. They can help you. They've got locations on Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and the one right over here, not too far from me, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, with Nick and all the crew. And that's, of course, Berry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Really good folks. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, it is estimated, and I heard this early this morning on a newscast, a private accounting firm has gone through, and they're not biased or prejudiced for one party or the other. They have kind of combed through the numbers on people that will not be covered by Obamacare at the time of the election this fall, okay? Now, do you remember what the main purpose of Obamacare was when Barack, good old Barry, stood there and said, well, I'm going to start Obamacare, and we're going to cover between 30 and 35 million people that have never had insurance? That's on the record, by the way. At election time this fall, it's estimated that 42 million people, I want to say that again, 42 million people will be uninsured because of Obamacare, because of the increased rates, because of the cancellations, and because of those that really don't care. So why did we destroy, and I'm going to talk to Dean Cameron about this, Senator Dean Cameron, and Dean has all the insight on this of Obamacare and what negative effects it's had. But why did we destroy our healthcare system in this United States? And I'm not above saying that it needed tweaking and it needed repair and it needed some ideas as far as interstate sales to stimulate competition, all of that. All of that could have been done. A lot easier than this mess that we have created in this country called Obamacare. And now, looking at the election coming up in November, very possibly 42 million people. 42 million people will be without any kind of insurance Election Day, November, which is far worse than it was before we started. Go figure. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, once again, don't forget Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps. Oh, yeah, your family will enjoy the comfort. All you have to do is contact our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. This is really interesting. I got to pass this on to you before I do the weather. Do you know, and Gina, where are you? I want you to weigh in on this story just a little bit.
Okay.
Right there. Do you know who Elizabeth Warren is?
Elizabeth Warren. God, that name sounds familiar.
She is the Massachusetts Democratic senator, 64-year-old Harvard professor.
Right.
All right, you've seen her on television, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I want you to bear with me just a moment and then weigh in with the facts. People in USA Today newspaper yesterday are saying that her candid attitude is fueling her rise to fame and that she may be a presidential prospect for the Democrats.
Thankfully, she is saying in some interviews that no, she's not running for president because I, for one, would not vote for her. Well,
now listen to this, though, and you know this is also true, that many times they say no, it's actually they're sticking their toe in the water and they're feeling how good it might be, okay? She says, quote, I'm not running for president. We have races in 2014 that we have got to focus on. We have issues that can't wait. But she doesn't come out and say that she's definitely not going to run for president in 2016. But the reason I brought this up is how in the world could they give her all these accolades and build her up as the great, great leader of the Democratic Party when she is nothing more than a liar? And you know why I'm calling her a liar?
Why?
Don't you remember when she said to get special discounts and money that she was of Indian ancestry?
Actually, I just looked at a picture of her. No, she's no more Indian than I am, and I'm a third Indian, honestly. I'm the whitest white chick you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, not once in the article did it mention that she had a scandal, a major scandal, and we covered it here on this program, about her lying about being an American Indian and also from Indian ancestry. Now, how can you trust somebody like this, Gina?
I have no idea. I have seen her actually speak on, because we watch C-SPAN all of the time at home, and she's really, really fiscally smart. I mean, this lady is truly fiscally smart. But when it comes to some other topics, she needs to learn how to just zip it.
Well, no, I am not disputing that. And never once did I question her intelligence or her knowledge as far as being a Harvard professor. That's not part of the equation. But she lied to the public so that she could get a special benefit by claiming that she had Indian blood in her family, and it's not true. And right there, there's a red flag. If she's going to lie about this, she's going to lie about anything.
Well, you know, if you're going to be in public office, the power of the media and those who are inquisitive like I am, we have the power to really dig deep into people's pasts. And when you make such a statement as to say, well, I am of Native American descent, well, sure, I mean, so am I, but are you a card-carrying member? Well, and if you're not a card-carrying member, then you cannot claim that to get special benefits, because I tell you what, I am at least 1/4 of a Colville Indian from Colville, Washington. However, I don't get any special benefits because I am not enough Indian to qualify. And if you look at her, she isn't either. She is not enough Indian to qualify. So if you're going to make that kind of a statement, you better have the facts to back it up, because if you're going to lie to the American public, then you shouldn't be in office. But
boy, I'll tell you what, I know all about the statements and the Indian blood. See, Deanne is part Cherokee. And there are times in our 42 years of being together that I have absolutely thought she's 100% Cherokee.
thought you were going to be Scout Day?
Let's just say that I don't turn my back and I leave the house looking forward the other way. I got to do a weather forecast quickly before she comes in here and throws a pot at me. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Oberlin in Burley, 678-6996. Minor emergencies, major care. The doctor will see you now. All you have to do is just go down there. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, Sundays 1 to 7. Whether it's sinus infections, strains, sprains, cuts, rashes, sore throats, whatever, they can take care of you. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. And right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. It's been cloudy and windy for today, and also you got rain in the forecast. Winds are going to be out of the west 20 to 30, gusting to possibly 35, 40. It will continue all the way through this evening, and you'll taper off late tonight and have a nice day for tomorrow. 56 for the high, and we're going to say the overnight lows are right in the upper 30s, low 40s. Other than that, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Really some nice folks. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another story that I wanted to comment on this morning is if you, like me, do not believe in gay marriage, do not believe in the gay, lesbian, or transgendered abnormal lifestyle, now we may be targeted to lose our jobs or even beaten up. Or there's even some people that are saying because we are bigots and hate mongers, we should be thrown in jail. Holy cow. Just because we believe in normalcy, just because we believe in decency, just because we believe in the Bible, that now all of a sudden these people on the left, these kooks, crackpots, and weirdos are coming after us and saying we're going to get their job. We're going to destroy their relationships in their community. Why, we're going to turn this whole world upside down. We might even beat them up. Why, we might even throw them in jail. That's what we'd like to do. Because we stand up for our convictions. We stand up for a moral lifestyle. We stand up for the biblical teachings that we've had for generations upon generations. We stand up for what the Bible says is right and wrong. And all of a sudden, these people, these vermin, are going to come after us and threaten our lives, our livelihood. What in the world is going on? We have to sit back and fear for our lives and our jobs and our families because we believe in decency, and our voices, our opinion on this cannot be spoken out loud anymore. We can't write about it. We can't talk about it. We can't say that we believe that marriage should be just between a man and a woman. We can't come out and say our feelings on against the gay, lesbian, and transgender lifestyle. We can't say that we don't want it taught in our schools. We can't say that we think, according to the Bible, it's wrong because they're going to get us. What kind of a society are we living in? Think about it. 436-2244. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I looked up the word queer in the dictionary, and it says deviation from normal.
Yep.
These folks don't like to be called queer, but isn't it deviation from normal lifestyle that they're trying to push on us?
You know, Carl, you bring up a really good point here about normalcy. Our society and our beginning all staged because of the man and the woman and the co-joining of the two genders to create a population and to create a family situation. And now, all of a sudden, in the last 15 to 20 years, these people that are of the liberal left that want to change society and absolutely revoke the Bible and revoke normalcy and revoke morality, they're coming out and they're condemning us. Carl, this is crazy.
Zeb, I don't understand why they want to be known as homosexual or bisexual. If I know they're that way, I don't want to be around them. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to slander them. I just don't want to be around them. And for those who are, saying, yay, we're queer, we're here, get used to it, I don't understand what they're after. I don't go around telling everybody that I'm straight.
Yeah,
hey, I'm straight.
You make a very good, valid point here. You and I and others have not wanted to put floats in parades advancing a sick, absolutely immoral lifestyle like they have. And they always want to just jump into the schools, jump onto the television. They want to jump into the newspaper. They want to take all the media and twist it so that all of a sudden they're normal and we are the problems. And we've got to stand up, Carl. I know that you are a Christian. I know you go to church. I know that you believe. And you know something? Our problem is, Carl, our problem is that you and I and all the others of our ilk have been too silent. We've turned the other cheek, and it's time to stand up and be more forceful.
Zeb, I don't understand what they want. The first thing some of these people say, well, I'm gay. Why? What difference would it make in a business deal?
Yeah.
If it was a business deal, I probably wouldn't do business with them.
Well, you know what the thing is?
If they have a business, I wouldn't support that.
But what difference does it make? Let me interrupt you there and ask you a question. What difference does it make if they don't say anything, I don't say anything, we all go about our business, we try to live our lives, what they do behind closed doors is their business, what I do behind closed doors is mine, but they want to flaunt that. They want to change it. They want to be on the forefront. They almost want to be theatrical about their abnormality.
And I'm with you. I don't understand what they're after. And I don't understand why two people of the same sex would want to be married. I don't understand.
Well,
and if somebody of that persuasion would call Zeb and explain it, I would be grateful.
You know something, though, Carl? Why should they explain it? I really don't care. I don't want to know about it. I don't even want to hear about it. What they do or how they want to live their lives is one thing, but I don't want them going into the schools trying to convert our children. I don't want them to try to demand that they go to the churches and have gay marriages. I don't want that. And I think it's time that we as Christians stood up and said enough is enough.
I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, Carl. Thanks. And by the way, take care of yourself, my dear friend. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Don't forget Big Spring Tire Sale going on at all the 7 Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Now you know where they are, so get in there and check out all the tires for your pickups, your cars, your SUVs. Don't forget, if you're hauling your horses to all the rodeos and the horse shows, have new tires put on your trailer, your boat trailer. I mean, my goodness, they've got all your tires. And they've got the best in brake service, too. The best in brake service. Shocks and struts, front end alignments, all the batteries you need. Yep. It's all there. Big Spring Tire Sale. Plus, at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, you stop in and see them today. And they are our major sponsor right here on Zeb at the Ranch. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was listening. Gina, I don't know if you're still sitting there or not, but I want to ask you about this real quick.
Okay.
Did you listen to the ABC News coming into my program at 8 o'clock?
No, I was talking to Jerry.
Well, there was a story on there about how the atheists, I believe it was back in New Jersey if I heard right, and if I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected. Some of the atheists were really bent out of shape saying that no, they just can't have the Pledge of Allegiance said anymore, not with the words under God, because it causes their children great distress, and they don't want them to say it, and they can't just stand there and say nothing, so it has to be stricken. This is baloney.
I'm sorry, but I've been saying the Pledge of Allegiance for as long as I can remember, and I know that my son says it, and he's going to continue to say it, and I think that it needs to stay in the school.
Well, I know that we say the pledge, as you well know, at Lunch Bunch. Mm-hmm. And thanks to the people that lead it, that gentleman that just called a moment ago, Carl Clark, has led it many, many times. When we come to the words under God, there is a real emphasis on those words. And I'm waiting. I am waiting for the day for someone to walk up to me and say, well, you offended me because your group just said under God. And I'm going to turn around and I am going to tell that person exactly where the rocks are in the water to take a hike.
It is our choice to say under God. It was written under God, and so it shall remain under God.
Amen. Now, here's what we've got coming up for the rest of the program. Next hour, we're going to be talking to one of the nicest men in all of Magic Valley, Colonel Dale Whipple, and he's going to be talking about the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. And then at 9:30, Gina, we cross our fingers. I know you are. We're going to try to get Mr. Ken Blackwell back on the air, and he's going to talk about mortgage rates and how the government's putting us back into another problem with easy-to-get mortgages through Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And then, of course, Dr. History at 10:06. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to talk to Christina Tobin, and she's going to have a story about how the real true journalists are leaving the business because the networks, they're not backing them up. So all of that's coming up in the next couple of hours. What have you got over there?
Oh, nothing really.
So you stayed at home yesterday.
Actually, I went to Jerome.
And listened to the program, I'm sure.
I did. And actually I worked on a Power Glide transmission. We got that all tuned up, and then got my little brother's ZZ4 350 crate engine just about ready to drop into the engine compartment.
You know, you remind me, who was, quickly, I've only got a couple seconds here, but who was the mechanic? Wasn't there a female mechanic that Fonzie fell in love with on Happy Days?
Gosh, her name was Pinky.
Yeah, Tuscadero or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's who you're...
That was Leather Tuscadero.
Oh.
Pinky was his normal chick, but Leather Tuscadero was kind of a fling that he had on
There you go. And with that bit of knowledge, we're going to take a break, and I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch. And Gina, if Jerry's there, you might have him turn my deal down on my microphone just a little bit. It is really coming through hot. Everything you send me is good, but I'm really hot. Does that make sense? She's probably gone. Okay, thank you. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and, of course, all 7 locations. And we also want to say thanks to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Western Waste Services, we say thank you very much for all you do. And by the way, the other day I wanted to do a testimonial TV commercial for Western Waste. They are fantastic, and it wasn't hard for me to brag about them because I think their route service is absolutely fantabulous. Everything they do with the rental of the restrooms, the porta potties, and of course trash collection, recycling programs, everything. And they've also got the Go Minis, the portable storage units. It's easy to tell everybody how great they are. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. 734-6969. Really good folks. You know, and I always segue by saying really good folks, and I have to talk about our dear friends at Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, the owner-manager. The family lives there. And they have such flexible hours that they're always there when you need them. And family attention, and they care. They really care, and they can travel to rural towns and rural churches to meet with you and help you make the arrangements on funerals. They will serve you. They're always committed to the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Don't forget Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, and they've been so helpful to our Zeb's Lunch Bunch every month. We certainly appreciate Joel Heward and his staff at Hanson Mortuary. Right now, let's get on the phone lines and visit with a gentleman that I have absolutely the utmost respect for, and that's Colonel Dale Whipple. Good morning, Colonel Dale. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb.
My pleasure to have you on the show this morning, because we're going to visit a little bit about a subject that you are very near and dear to, and you are the president of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. Colonel Dale, let's start things off by telling the audience, and I'm sure there's many people that don't understand what the National Pioneer Hall of Fame is and what it does. Go ahead and give us an explanation of the Pioneer Hall of Fame.
I'd love to, Zeb. We discovered many years ago that Idaho is about the only state, and it is the only state in the western United States that does not have a national park. And we believe that Idaho has just as much to offer as any other state, and certainly our forests, our rivers, our entire state is beautiful. So we went about to try and get a new kind of national park, and that is one where the people select it, like they did back in the early pioneer days in California. The people picked the redwood areas as their own personal national park long before the federal government recognized it.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe the federal government is just about got more than they can handle right now, and they certainly don't have any more money to spend. So we decided as a group we would do everything possible we could to promote our state, and especially to help special need children that need. Well, most of them cannot go to Disneyland.
Right.
We figure that Mount Harrison and our Big River and our Bird Refuge and our National Forest and our City of Rocks would be a wonderful substitute for those that can't go, and in our estimation, they're better.
Well, now, Colonel Dale, let me ask you this. The headquarters is at the Book Plaza, your business right there in Burley. Isn't that correct?
Well, what we like to promote is two places. The Chamber of Commerce has a beautiful building right on the bank of the Snake River, and they have all kinds of pamphlets that promote Idaho. And we like to promote it first. In the Book Plaza, I built what we call a Freedom Gallery. It's a museum-type place. We have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We have the Declaration of Independence, exactly like they have in Washington. We have replica copies, beautifully framed, and then we have the pictures that go with them, like Washington crossing the Delaware. We have the convention where they signed the Declaration of Independence. We have many, many big, beautiful framed pictures, and then by each exhibit, we have the story, the real story behind the building of our wonderful country.
Now, Colonel Dale, it takes a lot of money, and it takes corporations and businesses to get involved. Tell us about some of the corporations and businesses that have been inducted into the Pioneer Hall of Fame.
Yes, we've had just outstanding local support and national support. We, last year at our Pioneer Farm Days that we hold at our Pioneer Farm in Declo, we brought up an original, beautifully restored Wells Fargo stagecoach with the horses, the driver, and the we called him the guard rather than the shotgun guy. And we took our special needs children for rides in that. We had covered wagons, we had surreys, we had buggies. We even had a replica of Cinderella's white coach. And then we have different activities for them, and it was just super. So there was Wells Fargo involvement. We inducted them into the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. And then last December 7th, we had a big music and dance festival at the King Fine Arts Center, and we inducted Walmart because all over the country, they have helped thousands of youth groups with donations, and both in money and in things from their store. And they have just been excellent in helping us. They've given us big semi-trailers to haul our exhibits. They've furnished trucks. They've furnished flowers for our botanical garden and all kinds of things. And then the one other big event we had was the sesquicentennial of Union Pacific Railroad, and we had that event here and in Ogden, close to where they had the Golden Spike. And we invited our special children and their families to come to that. And Union Pacific brought out their big 12-car railroad museum, and then we had exhibits all over town and in the Union Station in Ogden, and literally thousands of people attended that event.
All right. Now, Colonel Dale, you've got a gentleman that is really your right-hand man, and that, of course, would be Ray Bagby. I don't think there's a man alive anywhere in the United States that knows more about stagecoaches and building old wagons and refurbishing old stagecoaches than Ray Bagby. He does a lot for the Pioneer Hall of Fame, does he not?
Oh, absolutely. And it's his farm where we hold our Pioneer events out in Declo. And he has the most beautiful, old, authentic working blacksmith shop and a carriage shop. And in the carriage shop, he is actually building a replica of a Pioneer stagecoach. And he has hundreds of old Pioneer tools. And this May, on May the 2nd and 3rd, we're holding our big event out there again for the public and for special needs children. And he's going to be there working the blacksmith shop and showing people around all of our Pioneer vehicles. And we even have an authentic root beer saloon.
Okay. Now, Colonel Dale, let's talk a little bit about May 2nd and 3rd out there at Ray Bagby's. Is it open to the public? Is it free? Is there a charge? Tell us a little bit about the event.
Yes. It is free and it is open to the public. And we do promote the event for special need kids, but it is entirely open to the public, and the schools bring in these children. And we have people dressed up in costumes, Pioneer costumes, and we have activities like making ropes, and we have horseshoes and the blacksmith working, and Pioneer Dutch oven cooking, and all kinds of things going on.
Now, tell us, too, this National Pioneer Hall of Fame, and I mean this when I say this, I give you credit for all your time, all your blood, sweat, and tears to keep this going. Why? Why has this become such a mission in life for you, Colonel Dale Whipple?
Well, here again, we believe in the values that our Pioneer people established when somebody got in a bind or they had a fire or got sick. The neighbors pitched in and helped, and they didn't go yelling to the government or the city or county with their hands out saying, please help. We're trying to keep that spirit of cooperation and help alive, and we think we can do a better job locally. And I'm going to tell you an incident, if you got time, about one of the things that we did. May I?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
All right. There was this one young 15-year-old girl, and she wasn't the prettiest thing in the world. She was a nice young lady, and she was an only child of a family, and she didn't have popularity. But then this 18-year-old boy got acquainted with her and talked her into running away with him to Los Angeles. And they were going to make $1 million with him playing his guitar. And they soon found out that they couldn't make the success they wanted, and they lived on the streets in Los Angeles. And she became pregnant at 15, and they lived in a cardboard hut behind my store in Los Angeles. And I found them there, and I spent days trying to get them help in California and could not. The people in the welfare agencies told me they were just literally overwhelmed. They had over 5,000 homeless children under 16 living on the streets in L.A. I worked for a week trying to get them help, and I couldn't. And so I called my friends here in Burley, and we arranged an apartment. We got them work. We got the medical taken care of, and we finally found out who their parents were. And we called their parents, and they drove all the way from Texas to Burley, Idaho.
Oh, my.
And the reunion with that young girl and her parents was just something to behold. And to make a long story short, everybody got back together. The government was not involved in it, except we worked with the sheriff of Cassia County, and we worked with the welfare people, and they stood by and directed us on what to do and how to do it. And there was a beautiful ending to that story.
So, Colonel Dale, basically, and please step in and correct me if I say this wrong, but the funding and the contributions to the National Pioneer Hall of Fame, basically those same funds go right back into helping other people. Isn't that correct?
Yes, we have no paid employees whatsoever. Our entire staff and everyone is a volunteer. And you probably know of our #1 national and international program called Project Rudolph that the Archibalds started up in Oakley, and now we have volunteers in all 50 states and 14 foreign countries, and every year we send out thousands of letters and little care packages to the wounded military people around the world that are in hospitals and recuperating centers, and it is just, we received national recognition on that program from ABC, from our efforts in doing this work for the wounded military from ABC Television, and ABC Television National gave us a $25,000 grant.
Wonderful.
Program.
Wonderful. Now, Colonel Dale, I'm just about out of time, but I want to be sure and hit this. If people would like to contribute to the National Pioneer Hall of Fame, how do they go about doing it?
They can contact any one of our volunteers, or they can send their contributions to 222 West 11th Street. That's a good address. It's easy to remember. 222 West 11th Street in Burley.
Okay. And I would assume that a lot of people, if they stop out to Ray Bagby's at Declo on May 2nd and 3rd, there will be ample time for them to possibly contribute there also.
Absolutely. But we never pressure anybody, and we never make it obvious to make them feel guilty that they need to pay to attend. We try and take a soft approach to all of this activity, and it's worked for us just beautifully. And this is our 10th anniversary on holding this event, and we just get outstanding support from people. And we need more volunteers. That's the biggest thing we need. And we're looking for somebody that can do a few little magic tricks to entertain these children.
Okay. And if they have questions, what telephone number would you prefer they give you a call?
431-4661.
Okay. Now, Colonel Dale, just as kind of a highlight, how big do you see your dream for this National Pioneer Hall of Fame becoming? What are some of your goals and aspirations in the near future?
Well, we have worked with the federal government and the states. You do have to work with them. And we got 22 acres set aside out by the river and the interchange as the people come off the desert into the Deckwell area. We have 22 acres right there at the interchange and the river, and we are building things in different places, and eventually we will have a big move our Pioneer buildings, our Pioneer vehicles and tools and everything over there, and then it will truly become a national event center.
All right. Colonel Dale, I've known you for many years, and I have the utmost respect for you and your abilities, and I salute you in the National Pioneer Hall of Fame, and I want to remind everybody about the Pioneer Farm Days event going on May 2nd and 3rd out at Ray Bagby's farm. What a nice individual he is. And I want to say thank you for coming on the program, and we'll keep promoting this right up to the event on May 2nd and 3rd. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Zip. Thank you very much.
God bless you, sir. Thank you. There is absolutely one of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met in my life, and that's Colonel Dale Whipple, and of course he owns the Book Plaza in Burley, and he is also the president of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame. What a nice man. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's not forget to tell you all about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of those items you better take care of. That's right. Don't push them on the back burner and say, well, I'll do it next week. You might forget. You better give them a call today, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. And Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, a bit my tongue, pardon me, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. There is going to be a huge stock dog clinic. Now, I ran into by accident the other day Randy Kidd. I hadn't seen that. He looks like Gabby Hayes. My goodness, look at that beard he's got. And he said, you know what, I'm going to have a stock dog clinic, and it's going to be on April 26th and 27th, this coming weekend. And he's bringing Roger Stevens from Alabama in to present a 2-day stock dog clinic. He's one of the best trainers and teachers in the United States, and if you'd like to go up there, watch and learn, here's what you do. It's $20 per day to come watch, and that will include also dinner on Saturday and a lunch on Sunday, but you got to bring your own chair to sit on, and call Randy right now. Just say, Gabby Hayes, can you help us out? Can we come to the clinic? Just call him at 312-2252. 312-2252. That's Gabby Randy Kidd. Got to call him by his full name. Gabby Randy Kidd with a big beard. Stock Dog Clinic coming up this weekend. Don't you miss it. Going to be great. Oh, yes, we did, Gina. I just caught that. We forgot the tip of the coffee cup this morning, and here's what we're going to do a little bit differently. We are going to have a tip of the coffee cup to that wonderful gentleman that was just on the air just a moment ago, Colonel Dale Whipple, and the other person that we're going to have a tip of the coffee cup to this morning is a young lady that has absolutely got the best of work ethic. She really cares about what kind of a product she puts out over the airwaves. Gina Jameson. There you go.
Oh, thank you so much. That was very sweet.
How do you like that?
You missed me, didn't you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, listen, and I want to say this in all fairness. Yes. Our good friend Scotty did a wonderful job. There's no question about it. But, I mean, you have the intertwining of this program. You can think ahead of me as to what's going to be there. If I want an hallelujah, you've got it ready to be played. As a matter of fact, I'll put you on the spot. How about a couple of hallelujahs for our coffee cup this morning?
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
See what I mean? She's good. She's good. There you go. Gina, congratulations. Thank you very much. Hey, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. And boy, oh boy, have they got your furniture over there. And whether you're talking about recliners, whether you're talking about all your bedroom furniture, whether you're talking about your mattresses, or whether you're talking about 14 pieces of furniture for your living room. I mean, you need the whole shooting match. Well, they've got 14 pieces of furniture for your living room to just bring in the whole doggone deal and just set it in there for just $999.95. 14 pieces. I mean, they've got some accessories. They got your end tables, your coffee tables, your sofas. I mean, it's all there. 14 pieces, $995.95. And check it out today. Go into Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. They are waiting right now to serve you. Really, really nice people. Oh, by the way, too, I don't want to overshadow the fact that I, about a month ago, had some hearing problems on the weekend, and boy, I could not hear. And I went over to Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center on a Sunday real quick right after church. I could not hear in my left ear, and the problem was solved. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. The number to call, 678-6996. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you now. You better believe it. They can treat everything like breaks and sprains and strains and cuts and rashes and sore throats, everyday illnesses. They're there. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. Don't forget Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Wonderful people at 382 North Overland in Burley. The number to call, 678-6996. Real good folks. We've got a guest coming on the air in just a moment that's going to be talking about mortgages, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see if we're getting back into the same problems that we had not too many years ago. We'll talk to Ken Blackwell in just a moment. Stand by, but also want to remind you about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Absolutely. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 can take care of you. Call them at 678-0459. I got a chuckle. Gina, are you serious with that last text?
I am totally serious. I just left the message, and I'm calling again.
You know, I give people one opportunity and then a apology if they don't show up for the show. Now, I'm going to say and hold my words just for a few moments more if you're going to try to call him again, and then I'm going to unload. Pardon me?
Said I'm dialing now again.
Let's just listen, shall we? Go ahead and give us an update on the ringing.
Hold on just a second. It's ringing, but the connection's really bad. Let me reestablish.
Okay, you're going to reestablish the connection. We are waiting for a former undersecretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development and former mayor of Cincinnati, Mr. Ken Blackwell, to be on our program this morning. And we are waiting to see if he's going to be talking about Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae mortgages and how we're getting back into the same problem we had a couple of years ago with people having it too easy to obtain mortgages. And then we ended up in a big mess. And Gina's dialing that phone right now. We'll see if she's going to make a connection. 9:31 in the Magic Valley, and for that matter, everywhere else within this time zone. Yours truly, Zeb at the Ranch, waiting on live radio to see if our guest is going to be by a
telephone. He's going to call us back on a landline. His cell phone was awful. So
okay.
He's going to call us back on a landline.
All right, Gina, thank you. And while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and tell everybody about Let's Ride. Ladies and gentlemen, they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays at Let's Ride, closed on Mondays, which is great because they need a 2-day weekend like everybody else does. And boy, I'm telling you, they've got all the Can-Am side-by-sides. Oh, they've got great deals, rebates, and great financing. They've got dirt bikes, 0% financing down for 5 years. Oh, my! And open the door to that showroom, step inside, and just, well, easy, hold on to the wall. You're going to get tip over backwards with the wide display and all the array of the ATVs, every color, every shape, everything right there, and all the accessories. Wow. It's time to get out and enjoy the great Idaho outdoors by stopping in where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Stop in today. to Let's Ride. Let's check over with Gina and see if we have the call reestablished.
Still waiting.
I love this. Still waiting, she says. Coming up at 10:06, we have Dr. History. Don't forget that, Dr. Ken Turner, and we've got an announcement to make about that this morning. Very interesting announcement. I'm going to let Ken share that with you, so be tuned in at 10:06 this morning. You know what? If he doesn't call back right now and establish the call, I'm afraid that we're just going to go on to another subject matter.
No, I'm still waiting.
You're still waiting.
He said he had to step out of a meeting and that he would go and find a landline to call us back on, and so I'm I'm still waiting.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Here, hold on.
You think you've got him calling in right now? We'll take a look and check, and hopefully it's him. I apologize to the audience for the delay.
Yes, it is him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us on the line Mr. Ken Blackwell, a former undersecretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development and a former mayor of Cincinnati, and he currently serves on the board of the National Taxpayers Union on Public Affairs Committee. Good morning, Mr. Blackwell. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Good to be with you.
I guess what I'd like to talk about this morning, Ken, is, boy, are we getting, in a nutshell, back into the same loan problem that we had with easy mortgages through Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae that we had previously? Is this what this administration's leading us back into?
You have summed it up exactly right. This is on a course to be the Obamacare of housing finance reform, and it's really sort of using the same bathwater over again. Mm-hmm. And so now is the time for all of us who have a stake in housing finance reform to get on the front lines of this debate. That means that we have to make sure that the housing market is one that is beneficial and that fairly treats current and future homeowners, taxpayers, and investors across the country. And we have to be moving towards a system that is funded by private capital and engaged in private markets, with the federal government only participating as a backstop for the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. But you summed it up. We can't go down the path of making loans, forcing lending institutions to make loans to folks who are not creditworthy, or we're going to be in the same old soup.
You know, Ken, I'm so glad to hear you give a synopsis on this, and I'm also in the real estate business out here, along with some other ventures that I'm involved in, and I'm not trying to be holier than thou, and I know you're not either, when we say that mortgages and home buying and purchasing was so easy, and unfortunately many people that didn't have the credit and they were a poor credit risk jumped into the market through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and it hurt everyone, not just them, it hurt everyone, and that's where we're headed again.
That's where we're headed again. And so what we've basically said, and this is, we're about a week out from the markup date for the legislation that's best known as Johnson-Crapo bill that is moving forth on the Senate side. That happens on the 28th, and we think that it's time for everybody who has a stake in this to speak out and talk about the inadequacies of this approach. I know the Wall Street Journal's editorial page has spoken up. I know that folks on the left have spoken up, and folks on the right. Yeah, look, the establishing an appreciation for the rule of law is so important. That is one of the bedrocks of American capitalism, and that is that the rules of the game don't change at a presidential administration's whim. Well, in 2012, that's exactly what happened. Those who had been encouraged to invest in order to bring us out of the housing slump that we were experiencing found that the rules of the game changed, and while the private sector was willing to take a risk, the government took all of the profits. The government has gotten all of its money back. Mm-hmm. Taxpayers have gotten their money back. But you know who hasn't gotten? What category of investors? Are the institutional investors, the pension systems that have the futures, financial futures of a lot of Americans tied up within their resources. They haven't gotten paid back. Mm-hmm. You know, the big investment, the community banks have been left hanging out to dry. And one of the things that you and I both know is that in a capitalist system, capital follows the path of least resistance and greatest opportunity. And the reason that we have over $1 trillion sitting on the fence now is because folks who own that capital are not going to play in a game where the rules change, and they're not going to play in a game that seems hell-bent on making government more intrusive and larger. Right. And that's exactly what this legislation that's being marked up next week is all about. Well, let me replaces Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac with the next generation of crony providers. Mm-hmm. You know, it's time for us to speak up.
Let me ask you this, Ken, and I want to be a little bit more definitive as to the peaks and valleys. Now, Senator Mike Crapo's bill, what does it not do, what does it not address, and why is it not tough enough? Give us an explanation as to how you personally would change it.
I think it is fair to say that this bill is loaded with provisions to encourage and subsidize loans to non-credit-worthy borrowers while driving up the price of housing. Mm-hmm. The bill, and you know, this is getting in the weeds, but the bill, as was reported in the Wall Street Journal's analysis, includes a new 0.1% tax on federally insured mortgages that will be distributed to housing slush funds across the bureaucracy. And under this administration will be, I think, directed to what I consider to be the sons and daughters of the organization, the infamous organization ACORN, which will be nothing more than Mau organizations to force bad lending practices and put us right back in the soup that we just came out of.
Yeah, and Ken, and I'm trying to say this for the benefit of people that might not be familiar with the mechanics and the ins and outs of home mortgages, and correct me if I say something wrong here, please. But basically, by leaving the system the way it is and enhancing Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae under a government umbrella, if this thing goes down the tank again, all the American taxpayers are going to be on the hook, possibly with a bailout system, higher taxes to bail that out again. Am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely right. Again, what we want to do is to create a system that invites private capital back into the system. And right now, this legislation is insufficient, and in common folk speak, that means that what we're going to get is a more big government-oriented system of housing finance, and we know what that gets us. It gets us higher taxes. It gets us, you know, the need to bail out these failed organizations with more tax dollars.
Let me ask you this question then, Ken. Are we at the 11th hour where Cinderella's going to turn everything into a pumpkin, or is there time for the American public to demand of their senators and congressmen that this thing be reviewed and we try to get away from another Obamacare fiasco?
This should not be considered a 100-yard sprint. This should be considered a long-distance run, which means that we have the time, but we must speak up now to say, slow down, guys and gals. Take a hard look at this. Kick the tires. Let's not create, the son of Freddie Mac, or the daughter of Fannie Mae. Let's create an environment and a system that respects the rule of law, that encourages capital and private capital to investment, and that preserves the 30-year fixed mortgage rate, which is the hallmark of American home ownership. And let's also say that folks don't have a right to own a home. They have a right to expect that we will create a climate of growth and opportunity, that if you meet the requirements of prudent home ownership, you should not be denied that opportunity. But where we get into trouble is when people start to believe that they have a right to own a home regardless of their preparation and ability.
I think you would agree with me, though, Ken, on the following statement, that through this administration and the gimme I want it now society that we live in, and also this administration's trying to appease the voters by, hey, we can get you this, just give us a little time, and then they're buying votes under the auspices of trying to give things to people. We've got a real mess with lowered requirements that eventually everybody's going to be on the hook for.
I agree with you. Look, this legislation, Johnson, Crapo, and Corker Warner, these first drafts would add $5 trillion to the liability side of the federal balance sheet.
Oh boy!
And I think tempt rating agencies to demote government bonds again. And in defiance of the rule of law, these senators have stripped shareholders of all of their assets in two major businesses, and that's just not right. Americans not only pay through taxes, but Americans take risks through their pension funds to be the backbone of the housing marketplace, and those institutional investors should not be left holding an empty bag when the federal government is actually making a profit on the taxpayer bailout.
I have said for a long time that if we look at Detroit as a model of perhaps overfinancing and overreach of what they could afford, and now looking at the people that are just running from Detroit, that could happen in many, many cities and locations all across this country if we don't toughen the restrictions and the requirements to getting home mortgages. And by inflating the easiness of the home mortgages, Ken, all we're going to be doing is looking at more devastation, not only to the national debt, but also to the major cities in the United States.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we have to realize is that there's a clash of worldviews that's taking place right in front of us. This administration wants to transform our market economy into a government-controlled economy. Point blank. A takeover of 6% of the economy in healthcare, and now gumming up the works on another 6%, probably leaving, if we don't check them now, leaving the housing market to be a government-controlled market, not a free market system that creates opportunity and wealth. So there's a clash of worldviews being played out in real terms and in real time right now.
Ken, would you say, though, that unfortunately this story, this scenario that's being painted out in front of people are not cognizant or aware of how serious this situation is? How can we in the media make the story more palatable so people understand the dilemma that we're in if we just go ahead and relax the standards like we did years ago?
Well, we have to. Thomas Jefferson said it, and then I'll circle back. Thomas Jefferson once said that a government big enough to give you everything that you want is a government big enough to take everything that you have. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we have to start helping people to understand is that while our healthcare system needed to be tweaked, it was still the best healthcare system in the world. This government attempt to take it over is moving it not only towards inefficiency and rationing, it is in fact making it more expensive. So the promise that healthcare was going to be more affordable was a false promise. In housing, we have to begin to show the parallels. That this system works best when it is market driven and when it operates within the framework of the rule of law. Once you start to have a government-centered and controlled system, what you have is government picking winners and losers, and you have cronyism, and you have a much more expensive system, and you have abandonment of property and abandonment of our cities, and we see a dip in the quality of life, not an increase. And we just have to go back and show the parallels between the government-controlled approach versus the market approach.
Absolutely.
At the end, people instinctively want to be free. They instinctively want to be operating within an opportunity society. But if we don't watch out, one of the things that we know is that big government sort of blunts the sharp appetite for freedom, and it starts to replace it with a growing dependency on the welfare state.
Absolutely.
And we just can't go down that path, or we will lose American exceptionalism, and that's part of the problem. We have a president that really doesn't understand what has made us an exceptional nation.
Amen. Very well stated. And by the way, I've got to ask you one more question, completely removed from this situation. As the former mayor of Cincinnati, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Should Pete Rose go to the Hall of Fame?
The answer is yes. I played a little baseball in Cincinnati. I happened to be the person who led the effort to rename 2nd Street Pete Rose Way. One of my first days on the job at HUD, I was called by every major newspaper in the country because of the difficulty Pete was in, and they were asking me if I thought that if I was embarrassed that I had gotten a street named after him. And the answer is no. We're all broken. We're all fallen. I think Pete has, paid his fines, and he's done his time. And his records, are records that were established without the aid of performance-enhancing drugs. He was the real deal. He was Mr. Hustle, right there from the western side of Cincinnati, and a friend. And so my answer to that question is that he's paid his time. He's paid his fine, done his time, and his records and his accomplishment in baseball should be his ticket to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely well stated. I totally agree with you, and I just wish that my Chicago Cubs could have a season that we could talk about, but we're not going to go there.
After the Reds, I love those Cubbies.
Ken Blackwell, God bless you, man. Thank you so much for being on the program, and I'd like to have you back again in the future. Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, sir. Former mayor of Cincinnati and, of course, the former undersecretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and he understands about home financing and how devastating it would be to allow everybody to have less restrictions and get involved in the home market, and we're going to be right back where we were a couple of years ago in a huge mess. Enjoyed him. Very nice man right there. Hey, it's time for the weather. I've got to get the weather in here real quick, and the weather is brought to us this hour by Red's Trading Post. Absolutely. Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls for all your guns, ammo, and accessories, and the best people to tell you about everything. That's at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. It'll be cloudy and windy for today, and also you got rain in the forecast. Winds are going to be out of the west 20 to 30, gusting to possibly 35, 40. It will continue all the way through this evening, and you'll taper off late tonight and have a nice day for tomorrow. 56 for the high, and we're going to say the overnight lows are right in the upper 30s, low 40s. Other than that, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And don't forget they give top dollar on trade-in on firearms at Red's Trading Post in Twin, 733-3546. Okay, I got to check my paper here and see what else have I got cooking. We talked to you about a stock dog clinic that's coming up on this weekend up there. Oh, I might have told you or forgot to tell you where it's going to be. It's going to be at Kids Aussies at 510 South Lincoln in Oakley. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I hope I did. And call Randy Kidd at 312-2252. It's going to be in Oakley at 510 South Lincoln this weekend. And let's see, what else have I got here that we got to hit real quick. I told you about the Minidoka County Senior Center having a special event this weekend, a fundraiser, and let's see, I'll tell you some of those next week as we draw closer to those. I think I've got everything brought right up to current standards on our public service file. So if you have anything that you want mentioned on the program, be sure to send it to me or the station. Gina will get it over to me. Just send it to zebittheranch@hotmail.com, and we will try to get your public service announcements on the air, I promise. Let's see, what else have we got real quick? I think, Gina, do you have anything that you want to get on the air this morning real quick? I know you were gone yesterday. Did you have anything you want to mention?
I'm getting ready to redo the entire PSA list, so not at the moment. I do know that the Rupert Police Department and the Recreation District are having their pre-hunters gun safety class, so if you've got some little ones that maybe want to get out there and get their hunter's ed done and out of the way, call Mary Anderson over there at the City of Rupert, 434-2400.
Are you a hunter?
Yes.
You are? Bird hunter, big game, what?
I like big game.
Really? Mm-hmm. Go shoot a moose?
Yeah, well, I've never shot a moose. I've been elk hunting. I've been deer hunting. Growing up as a kid, we used to do a lot of grouse hunting, so that would be considered. Okay,
now, where you were born and raised, up by Elk River, and boy, oh boy, did you tell Jerry about possibly turning me down on that?
Yes,
okay.
I did.
Did you ever run into or have a close encounter of a personal nature with a moose?
Me, no, but we were always taught that if you were in the vicinity of a moose, especially a mama moose with a baby, that you just kind of gently and slowly back away. But it was very, very common for moose to come into Elk River all the time. Bears, cougars, we had it all.
You need to talk to my lovely wife about her encounter with a mama moose and two baby calves.
Ooh, very, very angry.
And she's sitting there on her four-wheeler while this whole thing could have gone down in a very negative fashion, and she's just shooting pictures.
and I think I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah.
And the mama moose just kind of wandered off.
Yeah, well, after the two calves jumped back in the creek where the mama moose was, but that mama moose from Deanne to her four-wheeler that she's sitting on is only about 25 feet, and the rest of us were going, Deanne, get the blankety blank 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 out of there.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, oh, shooting pictures. And you're like, no, ixnay on the picture, back up, would you?
She got some excellent close-ups, but I don't want her to do that again. So
no, an encounter with a mama moose is something to be fearful of because they can be quite irate.
Amen. We're going to take a little break and come back with Dr. History this next half hour, so stay tuned, Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Oh, my. We're trying to get through. We've got a little problem here this morning, folks. We're working on it and trying to get everything put back together with a little distortion and feed line to me that's like listening to kind of a distorted, blaring, red-hot foghorn. Anyway, good morning and welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to us by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, we thank our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the crew, or get on the get on the daily and weekly pickup of your garbage. All you have to do is just give them a call at 734-6969. While we have just a moment, I want to remind you about our friends at the Chadwick Sports Grill. My goodness, yesterday they had one of my favorites, beef stroganoff. Well, today they topped that. They've got roasted pork loin sandwiches with apples and onions. Knock your socks off, delicious. With potatoes, salad, or soup, just $8.95. Let me say that again so I can drool. Roasted pork loin sandwiches with apples and onions at the Chadwick, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, it is good. You stop over to the Chadwick today. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and we have a chance to visit with a gentleman that is known as Dr. History, and he comes up with some great, great stories, and he's got an announcement to make this morning, and I think I'll let him share and bask in all the glory. Good morning, Dr. History. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing great, and I do have kind of an exciting announcement to make. We now officially have our web page up, and so people can go anytime they want to and listen to the stories, some of the stories we've done in the past, and if they want to re-listen to the one they may be listening to now. So all they have to do is go to dr-history.com.
Okay, that's it. Plain and simple.
Doctor, and then the little dash, and then history.com, and it'll pull up the web page, and they can just go down through the list of stories and pick the ones they want to listen to.
All right. Well, now, this is really great because, tell me, in the archives, there's literally hundreds of different programming in there, isn't there?
There are. We've probably got 100 stories recorded, and sometimes we'll even put 2 stories out in a week to kind of catch up with some of the older stories that we've already recorded.
Okay. Now, once again, say that again, how they get on the podcast.
Just dr-history.com.
Okay. All right.
So just think drhistory.com with a little dash in between the doctor and the history.
Okay. Well,
and that's our domain name.
Well, everybody's got to have a domain, and we've got ours, and we're looking forward to everybody kind of getting on there. We're going to mention it in cow pies and coffee cups every week. And right now, without further ado, while I can still hear a little bit of your voice, I'm having trouble over here this morning, Doc. Go ahead and tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, I hope this comes through okay, because you're kind of breaking up a little too. So.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I can't help it. I don't know what else I can do. We've had trouble with the phone line. It was off right at 1 minute to 10 again, and then it came back. It was red pistol hot, and it's kind of warbling and cutting out, and I don't know why. So go ahead.
Hopefully they can hear my end of the story.
Okay, anyway. Go ahead.
Well, over time we've told different stories about medicine in the Old West. And so we're going to hit that again today. Now, to give a little background, until after the Civil War, medical practice in America was really pretty much in the Dark Ages. I mean, the general consensus back then was that disease was fluids. So the sole remedy was to get rid of fluids. So, one was bloodletting. Number 2 was purging the stomach. And number 3 was purging the bowels. Now, I know that doesn't sound too appetizing at this point, but anything they could do, like I say, they did the bloodletting. They actually did bloodletting on animals, cows and horses even. But they used ipecac to produce vomiting and calomel to empty the bowels, and that's what they figured would cure about anything. And if you think about George Washington, now, George Washington actually was dying of a throat infection, and they think maybe something like a tonsillitis type thing. But anyway, they started bleeding him, and they did it 3 or 4 times, and by the time the last time they were bleeding him, there really wasn't much coming out, and that's really probably what contributed to him dying. But we're going to skip right on back to the Old West, what we refer to as granny remedies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are the pioneer women and folk medicine, things that they did. And if you think of folk medicine, like herbs and stuff, that really went back really thousands of years. In fact, they have found in a cave in Iraq a 60,000-year-old pollen from a type of plant that was used to treat wounds and dysentery and asthma and inflammation and toothache. So the folk remedies have been around for thousands of years, and a lot of these have been passed down through generations, and a lot of those came west with the pioneers. Now, but some of them worked. And, for example, who would have believed that igniting an herb called mugwort and letting it smolder against the little toe of a pregnant woman would have an effect on the baby? Researchers tested this practice, it was actually a Chinese practice, and found that if the fetus was in a breech position, 75% would rotate to normal by using this mugwort. Like I say, it sounds really strange. But strange things happens with some of these folk remedies. Now, in the latter part of the 19th century and into the 20th, the profession of medicine, they pretty well abandoned a lot of these folk remedies because they just didn't figure they worked. But in addition to this mugwort study, they actually found an herb called saw palmetto extract that was actually found to improve prostate health. Another Chinese herbal formula showed to improve the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. So anyway, in spite of the medical profession's aversion to this, folk medicine, again we called it granny medicine by some, was practiced in nearly every community in the West. Now, it was kind of a trial and error deal that developed, and there were literally thousands of home remedies. In fact, sometimes it was better off not to tell somebody you were sick because they would have some remedy, and maybe it wasn't too pleasant to go through. Now, most of these methods were directed at the symptoms and really didn't cure the problem, but it helped with the symptoms. So on the frontier, the family doctor really was the housewife or the grandma or the neighbor or basically somebody who had a reputation. Now, at one time or another, everything which grew in the fields, the forests, the swamps, played a part in family medicine. And there was a recipe for every illness that came along or needed to be prevented. And many of these treatments relieved the symptoms, especially if accompanied by rest and good nursing care. And I kind of stress that, if you're sick, if you get good nursing care and rest, really, you're probably going to get better no matter what they give you.
Yeah, but when you think about it, in the old days, I got to ask you this, if you look at what happens to kids today, if you look at what happens to me today out there maybe fixing something in the barn and you drive a nail in your hand or whatever, boy, oh boy, they didn't have the luxury of running to a doctor's office or a quick care unit back in those days, and a lot of times infection could set in and they were going to die.
Exactly, and that was one of the major problems with gunshot wounds and knife wounds was infection. So, but since the earliest times, women actually have always played a major role in medical care. Their contributions were seldomly officially recorded, from the beginning, the male-dominated profession of medicine pretty much refused to recognize the value of women in the healing arts. But history does tell us, however, that it was usually the women who gathered the herbs, prepared the medicine, they nursed the sick, and they delivered babies. I've got a relative that delivered hundreds of babies as a midwife up in the Oakley Basin area. But in the American West, tale after tale describes women's roles as caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about it, on the long trip from so-called civilized world in the East to the wild, untamed frontier, many pioneers were nursed through sickness and injury, again, by mothers, aunts, sisters, grandmothers on the trail, and right on into the towns of the western frontier. But the frontier women were caregivers really in the true sense of the word, and they represented the first line of defense against disease. And for a long period in American history, these pioneer women, whose only reward was the satisfaction of helping others, devoted themselves to the sick. And many of them learned about medicine from their mothers or their grandmothers, and a few might have read a book or two, but probably most of them had never read anything. But some knew a good deal about the herbs, and mostly, however, they used common sense, and they relied on their own experience with illness and injury. Now, more important than what they knew was the fact that they cared. Now, this is a pretty important thing, Zeb. It's doubtful that any of these humble people thought of themselves as exceptional, or they'd probably never ever heard of Florence Nightingale, but again, they were taken care of. And most communities had midwives and women who specialized in tending the sick. Now, there's one story of an unnamed woman who was said to be a slave of a Dr. Benjamin Crook, and she nursed many prominent citizens in Helena, Montana. Now, there's another woman that comes to mind. Her name was Martha Jane Canary, better known as Calamity Jane. She was actually a frontier nurse. Her vices were a little more legendary, but few know that she actually served as a nurse in Billings, Montana.
I didn't know that.
She was described as a caring and competent nurse, a very good woman. Now, occasionally, Indian women gained reputations as healers. Now, not all the white people trusted the Native Americans, but some early settlers accepted their services, sometimes just out of necessity. Now, most Indian women used herbal medicine, and they were experienced in treating wounds. Now, one time at Fort Union, there was a child of a famous fur trader who was sick, and he'd been treated by the white man's remedies, but it wasn't doing any good. The child was dying. Well, this particular medicine woman arrived, and she heated up some rocks, poured water on them, and immersed the child's room in steam. Now, during this procedure, she chanted a song that was part of the cure, and, well, the child got well. And we know, this nameless Indian lady had a great deal of common sense, because a lot of respiratory diseases respond to vapor. And we know that the Native Americans have been using the sweat lodge for this purpose for a long time. So again, common sense. But most of the women who served as nurses in their communities also had their own children to raise, and they worked with the men on the farms. There was a lady by the name of Mrs. Barnes who got into Fort Benton, Montana in 1883, and she had 16 children of her own. Now, nevertheless, she still found time to care for others as a practical nurse and a midwife. There's another place in Montana that had a lady by the name of a Mrs. Powell who nursed the sick. She delivered babies. And again, no formal training, just what they'd learned from their mothers and their grandmothers. But most newcomers to the plains have been used to little better circumstances. They left their nice homes back east, and now they lived in sod houses. In fact, after one right here in front of me that it's basically just a little mound of dirt, and they've dug just a dugout into the side of the hill, and they've fixed a roof on top of it, and that's all there is. But water was often hauled great distances from rivers or creeks, and the quality of that water, who knows what was upstream from the water.
Mm-hmm.
But to a degree, actually, this isolation of the homestead was really a lot of times more healthy than conditions in the East, because there was less exposure to disease. Now, sometimes epidemics, nevertheless, did find their way into most remote communities. In fact, in Montana, on one occasion, some visiting immigrants from Denmark brought scarlet fever, and it swept through the community, caused deaths of at least a bunch of people. But Now, even right here close to us, not too far from where we are right here, Zeb, there's a little town of Alamo, which you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And at one time, they had a cholera epidemic go through Alamo, and it was taking 1 to 2 people a day out of that little community. But when times were hard, most of these homesteaders were trapped, barely able to survive, but too poor to leave, and for many there was no professional medical care. Now, there were a few doctors that settled in communities along the railroads and the waterways and the trails, but even then, a lot of times they were too expensive, and most pioneers' first response to sickness was to employ these folk remedies, and again, as I mentioned, the tender, loving care of somebody that really cared. And not to say that these old, these frontier doctors didn't care, because definitely there was a lot of those guys that risked their lives and were out late at night, and they were some amazing doctors. So I don't want to degrade or put them down by any means.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question here, though, Ken. Didn't a lot of the people, didn't they understand that they couldn't draw water out of a stream downstream from a herd of buffalo? Didn't they understand that dirty water was going to cause sickness?
You know what? They really didn't. They really didn't understand the germ theory.
I see.
They if it looked pretty clear, they just assumed that it was okay. When in fact, you're right. It could be infected with who knows what dead animals were upstream. But you're right. They didn't really know. So, but a lot of these frontier women were often left for days, sometimes weeks or months, while their husbands were gone, working to supplement their income. And one particular lady, while her husband was away, she had a miscarriage, and she said, "I don't want a doctor." She said, "I just want a woman to come in and nurse me back to health." That's what she did. And the frontier women didn't really turn to men for emotional support, but they turned to other women, their mothers, again, their aunts, their sisters, their cousins, friends. And now, here's something a little different than what the Indian women I've talked to you about before. Indian women usually only had anywhere from 3 to 4 children. Now, many women in the Old West had a baby every year, and the children were often sick. Concern for the children was the greatest of anxiety to these frontier families, because when they got sick, they didn't really know what to do a lot of times. And there were no magic cures, and all too often the family had to bury one or more of its little ones. I mean, if you go back in the genealogy of a lot of families, most all of them lost anywhere from 1 to 4, 5, 6 children back in the Old West. Again, it was usually up to the mothers to doctor and nurse their offspring, and if they were lucky, they might have a neighbor to help, perhaps, or again, someone with the knowledge of some Indian desperation. Like say, they would do anything, and Indian medicine, a lot of times there was things that helped there. But it was not uncommon for families to be stricken sometimes with 2 or more epidemic diseases at one time. They might have smallpox coming through their family at the same time, scarlet fever. So again, because they were isolated, these families would sometimes get whooping cough or an outbreak of measles in the same family at the same time. So anyway, there was a Mrs. Godfrey. She got along without a physician when it went through her family. She used herbal medicines that she'd prepared herself, and so truly, the homestead mother was really the key to health on the frontier. And she really has no equal in the annals of Pioneer West. I mean, if you think about, again, very few medical doctors, and their training was very, very limited, even at that. So really the best thing they had out in the Old West was the women. So that's pretty much tells the story of what helped the families the most.
They had very primitive means, but yet maybe in some respects they were further advanced than medical science even today. I mean, with the herbs and some of the Indian treatments and the knowledge that they possessed, I mean, it's amazing to me with all the means that you could do to yourself to become injured, whether it's you're out chopping wood, you drive an axe into your leg, or whether you have a shooting incident, fall off a ladder, break a leg. They had to know what to do, or they just absolutely wouldn't have any society going westward at all.
Exactly. And I think that they, a lot of times, understood some common sense things as far as cleanliness. Now, back in the 1800s, before germs were discovered, there was actually a Dr. Benjamin Dudley, who was a medical instructor during that time, and he kept telling his colleagues to clean and boil their surgical instruments to prevent infection.
Mm-hmm.
And he, it met with resistance. They didn't believe that, and so you can only imagine how many lives might have been saved during the Civil War if physicians had followed this guy's advice. I mean, we've talked before how during the Civil War they would have a table. They would cut off a guy's leg and just throw a bucket of water across the table, use the same instruments to cut off the next guy's arm or leg. I mean, there was some common sense things. In fact, there was a Dr. Walter Reed, and you've heard of the Walter Reed Army Hospital.
Absolutely, yes.
This is where yellow fever was found to be, they found a cure for that. And, kind of a sad thing is physicians throughout history a lot of times use themselves for experimentation. In fact, this Dr. Reed, he would get, I don't want to be too explicit here, but he would actually take vomit.
Oh, boy.
Some of these, I knew this would get you.
Mm-hmm.
He would take vomit from infected people and actually put it into a wound on himself.
I see.
He would vaporize the vomit and breathe this. I'm not going to go any further. There's some other things he did that is not too appetizing. Just to experiment on himself to see if he could find a cure for yellow fever.
Well, and now that you've totally eliminated all of our luncheon sponsors, that's fine.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of other aspects to medicine in the Old West, and we'll get to those as well as we go along here. The Army surgeons, the what we call the kitchen table doctors that did surgeries on the kitchen tables of the pioneers, and then we'll get into Indian medicine as well, because there was a lot of things they did that were very, very common sense.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want to do before we wrap up the program this morning, I want to go to dr-history.com and, again, tell everybody they can be listening to the podcast. Oh, I'll let you have it. You end the program by telling everybody how they can listen to more Dr. History episodes.
Just type in your computer on the internet, dr-history.com, and it should go immediately to my webpage, and it'll have a wonderful picture of me, so to speak, and a little bit about the podcast. And each podcast will have a short little description of what it is.
Absolutely.
For example, on there right now, I think there's Wyatt Earp, there's... let's see, there's about 10 stories on there right now.
Absolutely. I've got to run.
Athletics and stuff like that.
I've got to run, but I want to say Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner, wonderful individual and chiropractor in the Burley area. Thank you so much for Dr. History this morning, and we'll share with everybody dr-history.com. Thank you for being on the...
You have a good day, Zeb.
All right, my friend. Take care. God bless.
Bye.
Having a little trouble hearing here this morning, so we'll bear through the next segment, and hopefully we'll be able to stay on the air. And I want to tell you that also I want to remind everybody on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days. And Cassia County School Days is brought to us by two wonderful businesses in the Burley area, and that's A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, they've got all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs for those who work in health professions, also with possibly hair salons and that type of thing. Plus, they've got all the spring dresses, hundreds of them over there, beginning at $20, and you can save a lot of money. All kinds of family games. It is a family store. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And then don't forget, too, Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. They have saved patients a lot of money while giving home-like surroundings and outstanding professional care. And if you're planning a surgical procedure procedure, call 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, along with the Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. We're going to take a little break. Be right back. Don't go away.